What's up, YouTube? Appreciate y'all being here. Let's enjoy the video. Let's get this reaction done. Follow me at all platforms, Dhawks underscore, and let's go.
What is the meaning behind the phrase, not all men, but always a man?
Not always a man, but usually a guy. So when something dangerous happens,
Before we even continue, it's complicated. This is the YouTube channel. Shout out to bro. Shout out to my guy. He's not, again, I never attribute anything to, how do you say this? People aren't the reason I do things because I have it in me to want to do them. But there's definitely some motivation, some inspiration, and some style that I take from the people that I look up to when it comes to certain things. It's complicated. Is one of the best interviewers I've ever watched and ever seen, ever content wise. The way he be having women stumped, the way he be having guys stumped, especially women when he asks questions, the way they contradict themselves, the way they fall over their words, the way they it's just crazy. Like, I'm into stuff like this. So the fact that I watch this and I'm just sitting there like, wow, whoa, I gotta rewind. I gotta sometimes screen record, save the video, because I'll just be blown away at how easily like his content just makes it's just fire. It's a great interview style. It's great.
Not all men, but always a man.
not always a man, but usually a guy. So when something dangerous happens, it's not always a guy, but usually it's a man.
While not all men are probably doing awful things, it's enough men that we all have to be cautious of men generally.
Most of the things that we're scared of are male related.
Not all man, but always a man means men are always behind all evil. It can be, oh my God, I'm gonna beat your ass. Anyways, it's always a man behind all violence, all evil.
So she says, not always, men are always the problem. Men are always behind violent acts. A guy says, not true. And she says, I'm gonna beat your ass. You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. That's crazy.
A system that is set up, we can argue politically it's set up. Who sets up the politics? Men. And then why is it failing? Because men set it up. We need to basically take down the patriarchy, set up a matriarchy, because what is it that creates life? Women. So why is it that men are the ones creating the system that we need to be supposedly following? And then that's why there's a lot of poverty. Why are there still third world countries where people can't eat, but we got people here spending millions on the fucking high stake tables? That's crazy. Who set that system up? Men.
When people say not all men, but always a man, what do you think that communicates to men who've never harmed anyone?
They're grouped into a thing, but every single person's grouped into a category, whether we like it or not.
Probably hurts their feelings because they're like, what do you mean? You know, like they love women, but they've never done anything and they're still getting accused of something.
I think it means they need to be mindful
Like,
and cognizant
they love
that
women.
even though maybe they haven't done something, enough men have, that women have a very reasonable, caution and hesitance with men generally, because the statistics really are.
Listen, I don't blame this situation because it's always gonna be like that. Just like how everyone's gonna get labeled into something. Hold on. Everyone's always gonna get labeled into something. Wait. Because I need a. Whatever. I'm gonna just leave it like that. Hold on. Let me. Boom. Boom. And now we back. So basically, what I'm trying to say is everyone is always going to get labeled into something. When you think of people getting robbed or stealing, what do you think of? You think of black people. When you think of people who are super smart, who do you think of? Asians. When you think of people who stink or smell bad or whatever, don't shower, who do you think of? You think of Africans or Indians or whatever, right? Now, it's not true but this is just something we all grew up thinking or trained to think or believe. So it happens. Like, you're gonna get grouped into stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm tall. People assume that I should play basketball or sport. I'm black. People would assume that I play sports or basketball. I'm bald. People assume I'm old. I'm handsome. People assume I get girls. You know what I mean? So it's always something going on where you get grouped into something, and that's just life. Now, how you move and how you maneuver in the world is up to you. If you want to let that stereotype be true, or if you want to, go against it. You know what I mean? It's up to you.
Against us in that way.
How do we acknowledge that most violent crimes are committed by men without implying collective guilt?
By looking at statistics.
If 80% of violent crimes are committed by men, does that mean that 80% of men are violent?
No,
So then why do women assume that most men are violent?
because of stereotypes that are put out on the internet and because of what is seen.
I mean, for me personally, I think most women have been affected by a man in their life. And so I think after a threat happens, it just poses every man as a threat. Like, you just want to protect yourself inherently as a human.
Do you see a difference between pointing out statistical trends and making broad statements about an entire group?
I think it's important to start with the statistics, or to definitely focus more on the math and what's provable rather than a general statement. But since we do kind of speak in general statements, it's just important to have the nuance and clarify when we're making those statements too.
If we use that same kind of phrasing about race or another identity group, would it still feel acceptable?
If we use that, oh, no, it would not be acceptable, which is kind of crazy to say, but it wouldn't.
So why is it okay for women to be sexist but not racist?
Honestly, I don't agree with women being sexist because that's the same reason of saying why can women be gay but men can't be gay.
I think that poses just a different question. Like, any race of man to me could pose a threat. It doesn't matter what kind of race.
I don't agree with that women should be sexist or racist.
But I think it's also still a bit different when we're talking about other marginalized groups that have, actually been through some pretty, historically different things than men committing violent crimes, I would say. But yeah, there's some different, things going on with those two things.
Why is it okay for women to be sexist but not racist?
I think there's a whole other sub conversation on racism that needs to be addressed with that, but I don't really.
He didn't ask that. He asked why. And you say, so now this is why, where you say what you think, why, then maybe a how or a what. You don't sit there and say that's a separate conversation. You just answer it.
If sexism applies the same way as it does with women as it does with men, being sexist towards women.
Why is society more concerned with men being feminized than with men being demonized?
Because if there was more masculine men, we probably wouldn't be so scared sometimes.
They do say that if a man is raised by just a woman, he's more likely to become gay, which I feel like is wrong.
So all my homies that got raised by just a mother, they're a little. So you telling me they're a little. So they're most likely gay. So if I got 10 homies, and I know a lot of guys that only grew up with their mother. So I got 10 friends. One, two, three out of those 10 homies are gay because they grew up with their mom. That's what y'all basically saying? So if you grew up with an only your mom, and on top of that, if you have a sister, oh, you're most likely gay. That's crazy.
By just a woman, he's more likely to become gay, which I feel like is wrong. But if you are raised around women and no male figures in your life, it will have an effect on you.
I feel like men are more feminized than they are demonized nowadays. I don't feel like a lot of men are demonized. I think more so it's women finally being able to tell the truth.
Wouldn't saying that not all men, but always a man, be demonizing men?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's stating the truth. I mean, most of the times when it is, a violent crime, it is a man.
Where do male victims of violence, abuse, or sexual assault fit into this conversation?
There are male victims. The percentage is low, but it does happen. And again, people just tend to acknowledge because females are viewed as smaller and weaker and just less capable.
What role do factors like upbringing, environment, or mental health play compared to gender alone?
I think it's like 75%.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean by that?
I think that like your mental health and your upbringing is like 75% of like if you become a psychopath or a perpetrator.
Someone's like inner experiences, like the things that made them who they are, the trauma and everything, that has much more to do with how they respond to things than their gender, I would say.
I think it plays a huge role. I mean, if a woman and a man were both brought up the same way, let's say they were both abused or they were both, taught that violence is the answer, then they're both going to commit violence. I don't feel like it's a gender thing. I do feel like it is, an uprising thing. And unfortunately, men are raised different than women are raised, and sometimes men are raised more violently.
Men should learn how to kill people and be able not to do it when it's not required.
What? Is there a way to properly kill somebody?
EVE Online is a vast...
Is it possible that focusing too heavily on men as perpetrators overlooks opportunities to support men before problems escalate?
Absolutely. I think that a lot of what I see on social media is blaming of men right away.
Like the social programs that...
But yeah, we only got 6 minutes, 7 minutes. But that's all I really want to cover. Listen, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and see you on the next video. Let's get it.